Hi everybody. Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. James?
Novak, I don't know if I've ever seen a penalty shootout celebrated on a tennis court quite like that.
Yeah.
How aware were you of what was going on in the match? And do you think it's strange that people technically can't watch the football at Wimbledon? It's not on the TV anywhere.
Well, as I said on the court, I think you could kind of sense the energy of the stadium, that everyone was wondering what the result is. And I was expecting it to come. You know, if England was to score or to win, a huge eruption of the positive emotions and cheering will come from the stadium, which happened. So I assumed that England won at that point. And then, we kind of, Popin and I did a little fun mocking with shooting a penalty, and then he kind of reached for it. So it was a fun moment, and I think then we could actually focus on, along with the crowd, on the tennis match. But it was a big match, obviously, and it happened in the middle of our match when it started. And then once the roof was closed, obviously the atmosphere became even more loud and electric, as it always is. And as for your second question regarding the airing of football on the TV, I'm surprised as well. I don't know if it was aired or not, but I was hearing somebody all the way up in one of the maybe press commentary booths. There was quite a bit of noise. I guess that person was following closely what was happening in the penalty shootout. So I guess when England was scoring, then he shouted, and then the whole section of the stadium kind of laughed. And so it was going kind of for a few minutes, but then obviously when they won, it was a big eruption. So yeah, good for them.
Willie?
Sure. Novak, you haven't had the situation in this tournament yet, but what do you make of 5-set matches and the keys to thriving in them and the importance to the game?
Well, 5-set matches is nowadays you can only see them in Grand Slams, right? So that's what I guess excites both players and the crowd. Most of the people love to see it. We as players like to play it, maybe not that often, but I think at times to see an exciting 5-set match, like for example the one that I can highlight was one of the most exciting matches I've ever played in my life, the 5-setter against Federer here in finals of Wimbledon in 2019. That was, I think, the first year they introduced a 12-all tiebreak. And we used it right away the first year, in the finals. So it was an incredible match with some match points saved. And, if that match was best of 3, yes, I was 2 sets to 1 up, but I think it would be quite different because he was a better player. So I kind of, when you know that you have, even if you're 2 sets to love or 1 down, like Rune was here today, was my next opponent. He was 2 sets to love down. He still is not out. He can still win. And I think if you're physically fitter, I guess, than your opponent, or have more experience than your opponent in best of 5, it still gives you a sense of confidence and tranquility, even though you're 2 sets to love down. Of course, there's a sense of urgency, but you still feel like, okay, that there's still quite a lot of time for me to kind of bounce back. And throughout my career, I've had quite a few matches where I was coming back from 2 sets to love or 2 sets to 1 down, and winning record, mostly positive score in a 5th setter. So I enjoyed those throughout my career, and I think they're important aspect of the history and of the future as well of the sport. So I would support it, particularly in the latter stages of the Grand Slam. I've seen there's been quite a lot of debate on that, and you guys have been asking a lot of players what they think, whether the best of five should be turned into best of three in slams. I don't think so. I think they should stay best of five. The only thing that I'm maybe thinking it could be good to consider is the opening rounds that could go best of three, and then you move into the hybrid of best of fives from the fourth round of quarters. I don't know. That's just me, my thinking. But I think best of five, particularly in the last 3-4 rounds of a slam, you need to keep. But in terms of innovation in tennis and in our sport, I think it's necessary. I think we have to, other than slams, we have to figure out how to attract younger audience. I think tennis, from one hand, is in a good place, but at the same time, when we look at Formula One, for example, and what they have done in terms of marketing, in terms of growth of the sport, in terms of, you know, the races around the world and how popular they are, I think we need to do a better job on our respective tours, because the Grand Slams are always going to do well, but I think our tours need to do better. And we are lucky to be very historic and very global sport, but I think one of the studies that was done by PTPA 3-4 years ago showed that tennis is the third or fourth most popular sport in the world, most watched sport in the world, along with cricket. Number one is obviously football, or soccer as you call it in States, and the second one is basketball, and then it's tennis and cricket. But tennis is number 9 or 10 on the list of all sports in terms of using its popularity, commercializing or capitalizing on that. So I think there is a huge space for growth. That we are quite fractioned, I think, as a sport. So there's quite a bit of things, I think, for us to really collectively look at and try to improve it. And we need to grow the number of players that live from this sport. We still, very, very rarely do I see in the media that you guys are writing about the fact that you have only 350 or 400 players, both men, women, singles, doubles, across the board that live from this sport on this planet. And that's, for me, deeply concerning, because, yes, we talk about the Grand Slam winner wins this or that, but then it's always the focus on the grand prize. But what about the base level? I think we're still doing a very poor job there, very poor job, because tennis is a very global sport, and it's loved by millions of children that pick up a racket and want to play, but we don't make it accessible. We don't make it so affordable, especially in the countries like mine, that doesn't have a strong federation that has Grand Slam or, history or big budgets. So I think collectively, we all have to come together and understand how to maintain the sport's, let's say, foundation, or create a new foundation, a cornerstone of really what tennis is about, which is the base level, right? The club level. And now we have the paddle, or padel, as you call it in the States, that is growing and emerging, and people kind of have fun with it and say, yeah, but tennis is tennis. Tennis is a king or queen of all the racket sports. That's true. But on a club level, tennis is endangered. And if we don't do something about it, as I said, globally or collectively, paddle, pickleball in States, they're going to convert all the tennis clubs into paddle and pickleball, and because it's just more economical. You have one tennis court, you can build 3 paddle courts on one tennis court. You do the simple math. It's just much more financially viable for an owner of the club to have those courts. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to share. But in a grand scheme of things, I feel like we need to address all of these I feel like challenges and issues for us, really, because they have been out there for a while, but I don't think we have been addressing them in a proper way.
Thank you. I will move on to questions in turn.
We can do, I answered a very long one, we can do one or two more. That was more than you asked for.
Congrats on the win. Next up, Holger Rune. How
Yeah.
would you describe your relationship with Holger?
I actually get along very well with him. He's a very nice guy. I mean, always has been to me and to my team, and vice versa. I always try to be, available to him for, any practice or advice or guidance or anything like that. I, remember him since he was quite young. He appeared, I think, in south of France, in Monaco, where I was based. And been training, and he was in Moratoglu, and we trained a lot on different surfaces, spent some time. His mother, his sister, they've all been quite nice to us. So I like our relationship. I think we get along very well, and we respect each other, and I think we have quite similar styles of tennis. But when it comes to, playing on the court and competing, obviously we both have that fire, and I'm sure that on Monday we'll see a lot of fireworks on the court. He's a spectacular player, no doubt. He loves the big stage, loves playing on grass. I think he's very, very tricky opponent. So he's going to take my best tennis to win.
Great.
Yeah.
Last English question.
Talking about Holger Rune, you've been knowing him for a while in Côte d'Azur. Which section of his game do you think he developed the most? He used to have that forehand slice in the right corner. Now he's hitting more the forehand. Which part of his game?
No, I think he has always had a very good working ethics, and he's been very dedicated guy. So he, once he sees something is off, he's going to go out on the practice court and he's going to work on it. And that's what I always loved about him. And I think he's a very all-around player. He can play equally fast and well and aggressive, and both aggressive and defensive from both corners and forehand and backhand. All surfaces. He's probably lacking a bit more consistency with his results, comparing to Sinner, Alcaraz, which are his generation. But he looks to me as a player that is ready for big things, and it takes a little bit of time maybe for him mentally as well to mature, I think, and to gain experience and to understand how he needs to play in a certain moments and so forth on a big stage. But he's got quite a bit of experience already for a 21-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. He's 21. So he's been working very hard. I think his serve is a big weapon now. Maybe it wasn't so much in the past, but serve and forehand, and then of course backhand is as solid as anybody's, and return as well, really close to the line, really trying to take away the time from his opponent.
Right, should we move on to Sylvia?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.